On October 1st, 2017, the nation, indeed the world, was alerted to a mass shooting in Las Vegas, Nevada. While mass shootings have not been unique, this particular incident was unique in several disturbing ways. But there are still lingering questions about the event, the shooter himself, and the method and ease of his being able to establish a lethal observation post far above the plaza where he randomly selected his victims. Almost every mass shooter had a motive, leaves behind clues, a statement, or a manifesto. What were the facts of the Las Vegas massacre? Who was the shooter? How did he manage to transport, incorporate, and utilize all of the various weapons so easily? What was the shooter's perceived motive for such an act?
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former history professor, Army and Marine Corps veteran, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History.
Nearly a year after a gunman opened fire from a hotel window on 22,000 concert-goers, killing 58 people and wounding hundreds of others, police released their final report into the mass shooting. The mass shooter, 64-year-old Stephen Paddock, wealthy and well-known as a gambler at the various casinos, checked into the Mandalay Bay Hotel Casino Resort on September 25, 2017. Pollock drove his Hyundai Tucson SUV from his home in Mesquite, Nevada, about 75 miles northeast of Las Vegas, and arrived at the hotel around 3 p.m. Paddock was a realtor and accountant who had earned a good living as a professional gambler, earning around $2.1 million, and was treated as a VIP customer. Pollock arrived and checked into suite 32-135 on the 32nd floor, as well as booking a suite next door, 32-134, in his girlfriend's name, which is a corner area which provided a wide field of view and a clear killing ground overlooking the Las Vegas Strip. Police had completed access to dozens of security cameras that recorded Paddock's every movements from the lobby, elevator, hallway, and his many trips up and down and in and out of the hotel. The senior vice president of global security for MGM Resorts, which owns the Mandalay Bay, Stephen Martinez, said, "He was a very typical guest. He was, in our estimation, the lowest risk type individual that would come onto our property. Everything he did is what you'd expect a normal guest to do, using food and beverage restaurants, having things delivered to his room. He preferred to play video poker machines. He'd stay at that for hours on end." Deputy Police Chief Andrew Walsh of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department stated, "Paddock did nothing to stand out. He was just one man in a sea of thousands of hotel guests. He just looks like a middle-aged guy with a lot of luggage going up to his room." On October 1st, 2017, Paddock ordered room service, and records show that between 2:23 p.m. and 9:40 p.m., he opened and closed the doors to both suites several times. The venue far below was a concert by country music star Jason Aldean. He was the closing act of the 3-day Harvest Festival open-air concert on the Las Vegas Strip, with the greatest number of the 22,000 concert-goers located on the Strip at the Mandalay Bay. He started his show at 9:40 p.m. The festivities were then erupted by what many people thought were fireworks, but it soon became quite apparent that the sounds were gunfire as people ran for cover, as some fell, killed, and many others wounded. Some people risked their own lives, using their bodies to cover loved ones and even total strangers. People began to duck and cover. Others dove atop loved ones and petrified strangers, using their bodies as human shields, as over 100 rounds had already been fired. Speculation and confusion would later take root, prompting the question, how did a lone shooter remove a window that didn't open and weighed over 800 pounds? The simple answer was that he smashed it with a hammer and shot what remained. Some were not satisfied with the answer, but the idea of the window being removed is debunked by video and photo evidence from the night of the shooting. Chief Walsh also said, people went into multiple directions not knowing where the rounds were coming from. Then the employees inside the hotel became aware of the shooting. Security guard Jesus Campos was ending his shift when he received a call to check out a room alarm on the 32nd floor. That was the last call of my night. In my head, I was home free after this. What Campos did not know at that time was that the alarm call turned out to be a nanny who had left her room door ajar. That was very fortunate because otherwise Campos would not have discovered the source of the gunfire, and that saved more lives. Campos took the stairwell to the 32nd floor and saw a metal L bracket had been screwed to the door and door jamb, preventing him from opening it. He walked up to the 33rd floor and took the elevator back down. Photos of the L bracket indicate that it was secured to the door and door frame from inside the hallway, raising questions of how Campos was able to see the bracket in his report. Other inconsistencies within his story were brought to light, but are chalked up to the Mandalay Bay Hotel protecting its image, which isn't exactly malicious. He said, I don't know what was going on, just simply because that's not normal. So I had to call our security dispatch. His call was transferred to maintenance engineering. Campos, who was unarmed, entered the 32nd floor hallway and heard what sounded like a drill coming from behind the doors at the far end of the hall inside suite 32-135. While the official report states that there were in fact more than 1,000 spent shell casings, only one of the many released from the crime scene show any shells at all, and they number much less than 1,000. When he approached the location of the strange noise, the person who was barricaded inside the suite saw him coming and opened fire through the door. At that time, thousands of people were already calling 911, and police were on the way. Campos also said, I was struck and I went to get cover. I had to take a moment to realize what was going on. I went to lift up my pant leg and I saw the blood coming down. Campos found safety in an alcove and radioed for help at 10:06 p.m., where he called in, "Hey, shots fired," in 32-135. Mandalay Bay maintenance engineer Stephen Shook reached the 32nd floor at 10:08 p.m. after receiving Campos's report. Upon leaving the elevator, he later said that he heard what sounded like a jackhammer as well. Campos saw Shook coming. Campos said, I noticed him. I said, get cover, it's not safe. At that moment in time, there were more rounds being dispersed. Shook dove for cover as bullets whizzed down the hallway toward him, then he radioed for help. Shook said himself, I thought if I don't come out of the hallway alive, I wanted to communicate for Metro Police, the first responders, to get up there because this is where the shooter is. I reported an active shooter. One of the 911 dispatchers was recorded as saying, there are numerous reports coming in. We have 33 calls holding. It's an active shooter. Meanwhile, the bullets kept flying as Pollock, no longer dealing with Campos and Shook, returned to his deadly business. One of the police officers responding on scene was Brady Cook, and video from another officer's body camera recorded when Cook and other officers came under fire and took cover behind their vehicles. I'm down, I got shot, Cook is heard on another officer's body cam screaming. But the confusion for the 911 dispatchers and police was understandable because they received unconfirmed reports of shooters in multiple hotels, including the Tropicana Las Vegas Casino Hotel Resort. Also, as part of the confusion, armed Mandalay Bay security guards at first thought the gunfire was coming from outside and exited the hotel in search of the shooter. They searched the area but could not locate a shooter. Also at that time, LVMP Officer Richard Cole and rookie trainee Officer Brandon Engstrom only on his second day on the job, had both just reported for duty. As Engstrom and Cole arrived, a fellow officer radioed, "Be aware, it is automatic fire, fully automatic fire from an elevated position, take cover." According to Engstrom, it was our sergeant who had the radio on. Shots came out over the radio, so immediately he yells at us to go to our cars, get ready, and go to the concert venue. Very disturbing to all the police arriving or already on location was that whenever any officer keyed a radio mic, the sound of rapid gunfire could be clearly heard. And as soon as both Engstrom and Cole arrived, a man rushed up to them holding his wounded wife. According to Officer Cole, he came over to our car and he's carrying his wife, Giovanna, in his arms, and he says, "Help me, I'm a police officer." That man, Frank Calzadias, was an officer for the Salt River Police Department in Arizona. He and his wife, Giovanna, who was shot in the head, had traveled to Las Vegas for the concert. Cole and Engstrom knew that she had to go to the hospital immediately, and they drove the two to University Medical Center in Las Vegas as Frank Calzadias performed chest compressions on his wife. Cole said that as they raced to the hospital and radioed their situation, they heard that the rookie cook was shot. As this was occurring, the police located the source of the gunfire as the Mandalay Bay Force conducted a full sweep of the hotel, clearing gamblers and other customers from tables and slot machines. The police SWAT team swept every floor, bursting into rooms with guns drawn and rousting guests. They told the guests to remain in their rooms due to an active shooter. When they reached the 32nd floor, there was complete silence, and a room service cart parked outside of Suite 32-134 with wires coming out of it. They feared that it may be a bomb and proceeded with caution. Upon closer inspection, the officers saw the room service cart was rigged with a small surveillance camera, hidden under a plate and pointed down the hallway at them. They dismantled the overhead lights to give them cover and placed a bomb strip to the door of the suite. Setting off the charge, they breached the door and entered the room where they found Paddock, dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The suite was littered with over 1,000 spent gunshell casings and an arsenal of weapons, some lying on the beds and one on the floor, others stacked in a bathtub. A small surveillance camera had been fitted over the peephole of the suite's entrance door. The officers then blasted open the door of the adjoining suite and found more weapons, which were 24 weapons in total, including an AR-15 and AR-10, with armor-piercing bullets, and with some weapons with rapid-fire bump stocks and over 5,000 unused rounds of ammunition. The official reports that followed were updated as new information was discovered, and the following was reported, such as Clark County Sheriff Joe Lombardo telling local TV station News 3 in June that he was doubtful a motive would ever materialize. Other factors were also in the report, such as the fact that Pollock was not a person who would have aroused any suspicion, but what emerged later was that Pollock had booked several reservations at various open events, such as the Chicago Hotel during Lollapalooza and the Life is Beautiful music festival, also to be held in Las Vegas. The investigation also disclosed that Paddock's computers showed that he had researched many topics and websites in preparation. The searches included open-air concert venues, Las Vegas SWAT tactics, weapons, and explosives. Also noted was that Paddock had purchased almost 60 weapons, mostly rifles, between the period of October 2016 and September 2017. The investigation also proved that there was not a second gunman. Also of interest, which deviated from most mass shooters in the past or since, was that Pollock did not leave behind a suicide note or manifesto indicating a motive. What was found was that he had detailed in a notebook standard sniper tactics, such as distances, windage, and bullet drop calculations, trajectories. As far as a motive, nothing has been proven, and the report stated that there was no evidence of radicalization or ideology to support any theory that Paddock supported or followed any hate group or any domestic or foreign terrorist organization. One factor that did emerge was that Paddock's wealth had sharply declined prior to the shooting spree, losing nearly 75% of his wealth in the previous 2 years. In September 2015, his bank accounts totaled over $2 million, according to the report. but by contrast, that amount dropped to just over $500,000 in September 2017. His losses were more than $600,000 lost to the casinos, $170,000 paid to credit card companies, and $95,000 in buying weapons and ammunition. This one factor may have been the trigger that made him plan his rampage. But there may be other factors. Paddock's brothers provided more insight. One brother, Eric, told investigators that he last had contact through text messages with Paddock about 2 weeks before the shooting. Eric believed that Paddock may have conducted the attack because he had done everything in the world he wanted to do and was bored with everything. If so, Paddock would have planned the attack to kill a large amount of people because he would want to be known as having the largest casualty count. Paddock always wanted to be the best and known to everyone. His other brother, Bruce, said that he hadn't spoken with Paddock for more than 10 years and believed his brother was suffering from mental illness and was paranoid and delusional. The third brother, Patrick, had no contact with his brother for over the last 2 decades, so any motive is sheer speculation at best. The state of Nevada classified the shootings as an act of terrorism, but the federal statute does not. But as of yet, it is still not classified as such. This becomes important because MGM Resorts International cited a federal statute in its lawsuit filed against them, arguing that the company had no liability of any kind to the victims of the October 1st shooting. The final document dumped by the FBI indicates that Paddock may have harbored resentment over how he and other high rollers were treated by casinos. This was supported by an interview in 2019 with another gambler who knew him. His gambling habits seemed to be a major issue, as he would play 6 to 8 hours a day at casinos, and sometimes as many as 18 hours a day, but not even the FBI could establish a clear motive. One female worker who knew him said that during a 3-day stay at the casino in September 2017, Paddock lost $38,000. Lawsuits were filed by the victims and their families against MGM Resorts and Mandalay Bay, but that was challenged in the courts under the failure to comply with the federal statute on terrorism. MGM and Mandalay also argued that the private security company that handled the property was the party responsible and not the company proper. A settlement of $800 million was reached and levied against the casino and MGM Resorts International and its insurers, with payout to more than 4,400 relatives and victims. Clark County District Court Judge Linda Bell, in her brief order, cited near-unanimous participation in the settlement among potential claimants. There is a small memorial with 58 white crosses, one for each victim, on the south end of the Las Vegas Strip.
Thank you for watching this episode of Forgotten History. If you liked what you saw, please click like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to assist with the ever-increasing cost of production, please consider becoming a channel member and joining our Patreon page. Please check out our merchandise store. And thanks for watching.